Welcome back to another episode of the Adventure Athletes podcast. In this week's episode, I sit down with yet another runner, but we don't just talk about running. He is also a mountain leader. He's getting really into the alpine sort of stuff and a triathlete, which is Simon Malley. Phenomenal athlete, and we have a great chat talking a lot about mindset and different challenges outside of running. We talk about the mountains a lot, what got him into the mountains, and lots of things about triathlon as well. This was a great chat. I'd loved sitting down with him, and this is the first episode since my 6 and 6. This is the first one that's been recorded after I finished the challenge. I've had such a backlog, so you guys are probably sick of hearing about it now. And you might have even seen my most recent challenge has been posted. But if you haven't, head over to my Instagram to check that out now. Just before we get into the podcast, here is a quick message from our friends over at Soulmate.
We're Soulmate. Whether you're new to running or an experienced runner, we've got you covered for both road and trail, from shoes to nutrition to running poles and everything in between. Use code ADVENTURE10 both in-store or online for 10% off your order.
And now, enjoy the episode, guys. What was your call to adventure?
So I've only been doing this for probably about 10 years or so, and my call to adventure was triathlon. I can't remember why or how it came about. I just decided that I was going to do it, and instead of just going out and doing one triathlon, I set myself a target of doing 3 sprint triathlons within one summer to raise funds for cancer research. And that's kind of where it started for me. So that was probably 10 years ago, I think. Prior to that, I didn't really have any sporting background, not much anyway. As a kid, I didn't really do anything. I skated a lot, played some basketball, and then that's it. But I didn't do it at any kind of like decent level. It was just for fun. And then when my daughter was young, she used to go to a martial arts class, and I used to take her there twice a week, and I'd sit there for an hour and watch. And I thought, if I'm going to sit here for an hour or so each, a couple of times a week, I might as well join in. And they had a family class, so I started going to that, and I got into it. So I was probably, must have been late 20s, I would say. And I got into it a lot, and I started going to tournaments and travelled around Europe, to be honest, with some of it, and competed. And I did quite well at it. And I just got hooked on it. I was absolutely, almost obsessed with it, I'd say. Really enjoyed it. And then I worked my way through all the rankings, competed, and then I went to Amsterdam, and there's a big tournament in Amsterdam, and I remember I tried to, in point sparring, it's 3 points for a kick to the head, 1 point for a kick or a punch to the body. So a lot of the time you spend trying to kick your opponent in the head, and I was fighting Dutch people who were like 7 foot. I was trying to kick a 7 foot person in the head. It's quite hard. Anyway, I hyperextended my leg, and on the way back in, it trapped all the cartilage in my hip. And that was game over then, and it ended up with me having to go for quite a specialist operation. So I tore what's called the labrum in my hip. So as it went back in, it caught all the cartilage, tore it, and I had to go for a specialist operation in Oswestry. And the surgeon told me that he'd do the operation, but I'd have to give up martial arts, which devastated me. That was like my thing at that time. So I spent like the next few years sulking, basically. Probably got very unhealthy, and that's what brought me to the triathlon. I just got to a point, I think, and I thought, I've got to do something. I can't just sulk for the rest of my life. I'm going to get unhealthy. Well, I was getting unhealthy, so that's why I decided to do something. I can't, for the life of me, remember why I chose triathlon. I don't know. I really don't know why I chose it, because I didn't have any link to it, really. I didn't really know anyone that was into it. Maybe it was just the thing at the moment, possibly around the time that the Brownlee brothers were doing really well in the Olympics. So I have no idea, but yeah, that's where it started really, and I've been doing it 10 years now, and it's led me on to some really good things, really good adventures.
Yeah. Where did triathlon take you then? Are you still doing triathlon?
Yeah. I raced last weekend, and I'm racing again this weekend. So yeah, I'm still very much part of it. I coach triathlon as well. I've got I'm part of a big community there, and I really do enjoy it. But it has kind of sent me off onto different adventures. But yeah, triathlon. To start, it's kind of a normal progression. You start off doing sprint triathlons because it's easier and it's less daunting, shorter distance. As you get better at it, like the two triathlons that I'm doing at the moment are sprint triathlons as well. And the only thing with it is you start off doing sprint triathlon because it's not so far a distance. But then when you've been doing it for a few years, it becomes more competitive, so you go harder. So literally you're racing for an hour to an hour 15 minutes flat out, like zone 4 kind of eyeballs out racing, and it's hard. It is really, really hard to do. I'd much prefer an Ironman because it's nice, a nice easy pace where you can actually breathe and think, and even though the distance is far greater, it's much more pleasant. So I just went through the natural progression of that, really. Sprint triathlon, then I tried a standard distance triathlon, then half Ironman, worked my way up to Ironman. I did first Ironman was Ironman Wales in 2019. And I can't remember what age it was. I was in... it's all age group categories in triathlon, and my age group was 40 to 45, I think, when I did it, and my time was good enough to qualify for GB age group. So I got invited to go and race for the GB age group team at a big iconic race called Challenge Roth, which is in Bavaria in Germany, and it's like a bucket list race. It's within the triathlon community, everyone knows what Roth is. It's really, really good race. So yeah, I got the really good opportunity to go and race in GB kit and do that, and that was fantastic. That was probably for me the highlight of my triathlon journey so far. Really enjoyed that. I've done a few other, lots of 70.3s, which is 70.3 is half Ironman. I've done a couple of other Ironmen, and as much as I enjoy it, it started to become quite normal, and there wasn't really, other than doing different races, it wasn't really fulfilling my kind of adventure in me. So naturally I got into ultra running, as you do, and that's just opened up a whole new world for me, really. The adventures that I've had, the places I've been, the people that I've met since doing that have far exceeded anything that I thought I would get from triathlon. You know yourself, from being in the community, it is an amazing community. It really is good. I've met some amazing people, and I've travelled a lot more with it as well. I suppose, like, with triathlon, I've raced in places like, as I said, Bavaria. I've raced in Mallorca. Can't think of anywhere else I've been, but my ultra has taken me like all over the place. I've raced a lot in the Alps. I love racing ultras in the Alps. It's amazing. I did the Swiss Alps 100. I don't know if you ever heard of that race, but I went out to do that a couple of years ago. And it was a qualifying race for the Western States. You had a criteria to do it in, I think, under 22 hours to get a ballot place for the Western States. So that was my target. So I travelled out there on my own. It's quite scary, quite a daunting prospect to go out there. I've never really raced out in the Alps. I've been out there and done some training out there, but I've not raced. And it's different. It's really different to racing in Wales. The climbs out there are insane. They're like, around here, the biggest climb you're gonna get is 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes, something like that. If you go hard out there, like one climb's like 2 hours. It's just 2 hours non-stop, grueling climb. But the views out there and just the trails are just epic. It's so good. Yeah. So that was probably one of my favourite ultras that I did. was good. Enjoyed, and I managed to get snuck under 22 hours. I got 21 and a half hours and got my ballot place for Western States. So I put that in, but didn't get the place. I think I don't know the stats, but the ballot for Western States is like, it's harder to get into than London Marathon, I think.
Oh wow,
it's ridiculous. It's the iconic kind of ultra marathon, isn't it? I don't think there's another one that is as big or as well known. It's the original ultra marathon. So yes, didn't have a chance really, but it was worth it. The journey doing that race was worth it, and to get the qualify in kind of criteria, that's quite it's quite rewarding. It's good. Good test for where you're at. Yeah. I enjoyed that. But I've done quite a lot of local races around the beacons. I've done quite a lot of the different companies that operate around here. I've done quite a few of them. FKTs, you've had Lizzie Gatherer on here, and yes, so she did an FKT called the Gwyn Harris Round. And there's only 3 of us that have done it, myself, Lizzie, and Gwyn himself. And that is a 126 kilometre round of the beacons, which takes in all of the prominent peaks. I think there's about 31 of them in total. So over the 126 kilometres, it's about 6,500 metres of elevation. And Lizzie had already done it by that time. Obviously, Gwyn had done it and set the standard, very high standard. And I went out, attempted it, and stupidly chose to do it on what was the hottest day of that year. It was like, I think it got over 30 degrees. And so I started 4 a.m. in the morning with my dad as my support team. And by about 10 a.m. I was like, this is going to be brutal. And it was already like really, really hot, and I was struggling. It's the first time I've ever got sick in a race, like proper sick. Heat exhaustion, just couldn't take any food in, barely any liquid. Got to about 4 p.m, pushed through, but my time was just way off. I was literally just death marching around the beacons, trying not to cook myself. Decided that I'd try and get some sleep. So my dad set up like a little shelter under the car. I literally slept under the car with my head sticking out, and he covered it with coats. I had about an hour's sleep, and then managed to force some food down and decided that I would crack on. Obviously it got a bit cooler because the night came in, and I managed to finish it, but I think I did it in something ridiculous like 25 hours, which was way off my target. I was hoping to get like 19, 20 hours, something like that, so I was way off. But what an adventure that was. Yeah, if ever you get the opportunity to do it, is a cracking route.
Yeah.
Brutal, absolutely brutal, but yeah, it just takes you like I live just on the outskirts of the beacons, and I've raced there a lot, and I thought that I knew the beacons really well until I tried that round, and it took me to places, parts of the beacons that I didn't know existed. Some of the summits I didn't know existed. But, yeah, that was good to do. Highly recommend that to anybody if you want to challenge.
Yeah. I
think the FKT is something like 18 hours, something like that, which is flying for that course. That's pretty fast, but there's only 3 people that have done it, and I'm surprised at that, because there's the South Wales Traverse, I think, is the one that most people would go for around there for the FKT, and that's got a huge following, and a lot of people have done it. But I think the Gwyn Harris round definitely deserves a bit more recognition, a bit more people trying it for sure. Yeah. So just highly recommend that. So I've kind of raced. I've done a lot around the beacons, all varying kind of results. I've podiumed a few times, but it's not why I do it. It's a nice respite from triathlon. Triathlon is competitive, really competitive, like to the point that it does kind of sap a little bit of the fun out of it, because when you get into anything like this, you're doing it because you want to challenge yourself, but also you want to have an element of enjoyment. And when you get to a level where you think, well, actually I'm doing okay at this, and I'm podium, I'm representing Great Britain, and then it kind of the fun starts to dwindle from it, and that's what got me into into ultra running and that kind of adventure and mountain sort of stuff. Just in the pursuit of fun rather than pressure and looking at times and things. It's great. You can go out and do something like the Gwyn Harris round. I mean, you look at my pace on that, it's ridiculous. It's like I can walk faster than half of it, but no one questions you on it really, because they don't understand. They appreciate that you're out. It's not just about the elevation, the course, the terrain, the weather, all that sort of stuff is a big factor in it. And so I feel less pressured by pace and by time doing it, and that's a nice feeling when you come from a triathlon background where it's all about your pace, your wattage, your heart rate, position you've come. So that's a good element of it, and that's kept me very, very interested in it. That's pretty much where I'm at. I've, as we discussed earlier, I've gotten into some mountain climbing now and some alpinism, which I'm kind of working towards. You said you were interested in the mountain leadership sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Have you looked into it at all?
I've done a lot of research into it, like all of the sort of rock climbing instructors. I've done that. I've done some mountain leader bits.
It's
a lot.
It is, isn't it? Like I signed up for it, possibly a little bit naive to how much work was involved.
Oh yeah.
It's like I thought it'd be a short-term thing, but I've actually sat down and looked at it and thought, no, this isn't something that I can rush. It's going to be a fair few years, I think, before. And I've banked a lot of like the QMDs, Quality Mountain Days, which I'm sure you know, but the kind of requirements for a QMD is a minimum of 8 hours spent in the mountains in one hike, and it's got to be a route that is has been planned by yourself. Obviously, it can be an existing route, but it's something that you've got to plan for. You've got to try and do it old school with a map and compass, and basically you go out and just go for a hike, and then you've got to log it in your D-log. And what they're after is things that you didn't plan for, things that are out of your control, and you've got to log it all. And the more kind of variation that you can get to your log, the better. And I can't remember the amount of hours. It's a lot though, isn't it? Can you remember how many hours?
Like 20 mountain days you have to have to even sign up to the course.
Yeah. So you've got to register yourself. So I'm registered with a couple of governing bodies, and then the actual mountain leader qualification, and where you get your D-log and you do all of that. But I signed up for it thinking that with the amount of time I've spent in the mountains and the experience that I've got, that I would just be able to write my D-log and I'd be ready to go. But there's a lot of criteria that means that I can't. So I was going to use a lot of the days that I've spent in the mountains racing and things like that, but you can't. It has to be. You can't use a race where the route has already been planned. So you can't do that. Even though you're out there, you can't do that. So something like the Gwyn Harris round, any of the big races that I've done, you can't do. You can't use anything abroad. So all of the races that I've done and the training camps that I've done out in the Alps, I can't use any of them. You can put them in your log. You're allowed to put them in so they can see kind of what experience you've got, but you can't use that towards it. So I had all these ideas of just being able to like just put in GPX files for this and this, and I would just fast track it to the course, but no, I've literally had to start as if I haven't done anything. And that was a bit disappointing at first, but after a while I kind of sat back and thought, well, actually it's I'm in no rush to do it, and it's going to create a lot more adventure for me, and I'm going to learn a lot whilst I'm doing it. Like most of the races that I do, I just follow the GPX on my watch. Unless it's a route that I've recce'd and I know well, I'm literally just looking at my watch throughout it, and that's not really what mountain leadership is about. You You can't just look at your watch all the time. You have to. So I'm slowly starting to learn about the nav and how to read maps and compasses and stuff, which I'm enjoying. It's good.
Yeah.
It's a good challenge.
How are you finding all of that side of things? Because that's like quite new for a lot of ultra runners still.
Yeah, definitely. It's old school. It's it cracks me up. Like there was a lady on the start line of Dragon's Back this morning, and she was there on the start line with her map around her neck, like traditional in the waterproof thing, with a compass. And she was right at the front, and I was looking at things. Fair play. There are still people out there that used the map and the compass. Like for me with Dragon's Back, the map went in my backpack. It stayed there for the entire week. I literally didn't look at it once. I just used my watch for the entirety of that race. Yeah, that's another race actually. There's me talking about all my other races, and I haven't mentioned the biggest one. It started today. Have you followed it at all?
I've got a friend, Lee Davies, doing it.
Yeah, I met Lee. I went for a run with him. With Jenks, he organised a run. I think it was January time, maybe. So and Lee came along, and I met him there. He said that he was doing it. Yeah, I followed him today. He did well. I think he's going to have to slow down though if he's going to get through the week. He's gone out quite hot, hasn't he?
Yeah. Well, his goal was always top 10.
Yeah.
But then he's got his glute injury.
Yeah.
So he was like, "Oh, I just want to finish it now." And then looking at him today, it's like,
yeah.
Are you pushing your injury a bit there, Lee?
Yeah.
Like getting a bit caught up in it.
Yeah.
And I know him, he will be, but I reckon it'll be alright.
Yeah. It's really difficult to gauge that race because it took me 2 attempts to do. First attempt, I got to the last day and I couldn't start day 6 because I had a stress fracture in my tibia to my right leg. I just couldn't put weight through my leg at all. And it was devastating to get to day 6 in that race and have to pull out. But I made that mistake. I went in there all competitive, raced hard on day 1, came in similar time to Lee did today actually, and then the rest of the week just went downhill. Every day got slower and longer, and the pain crept in, and it got worse and worse until that was it. So last year when I tried again for the second time, I completed it, but I purposely went slow. Literally, I didn't race it. I ran. You have to. You can't do that race just hiking. You have to run a lot of it because you just wouldn't make the cutoffs. But I didn't run all of it. Nowhere near. I'd say I probably only ran about 30-40% of the entire course. The rest of it was just power hiking, and then on day 6 it was literally just dragging my ass all the way to Cardiff. So. Yeah, I looked at some of the times today, and there's some fast times being put down. So I hope those guys know what they're doing, what they're in for.
It's quite hard to know what the standard's like from an outsider, because you'll look at the times and be like, "Oh wow, they're amazing," and like usually over a long race, like that sort of distance in, you're sort of looking at it and being like, "Okay, yeah, we roughly know where people are going to come," but over the next 5 days, literally anything can happen.
Yeah. That is, regardless of how good you are, how prepared you are, there's a huge element of luck with that race. Huge element. I mean, the terrain is just insane. It's so difficult. Like today, the day 1, the route. As soon as you get to Penny Pass onwards, I mean, you've no Snowdon yourself. You've raced around there. It's different coming off there. There's a lot of jagged rocks and
going over Cribgoch for a start.
Yeah, well they were diverted today around Cribgoch.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because of the weather, because of the winds up there, and I suspect because it's still quite fresh. Somebody died up there, didn't they, a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah.
So I suppose that's still quite fresh in people's minds, and I suppose they don't want to take any risk. And there was high winds, so yeah, I understand why the race organisers have done it. Disappointing. Well, I don't know. Say disappointing for the racers. They were probably all like, "Thank God," because it's hard. Racing across Cribgoch is not. I remember the first time I ever went up there. I think I crawled across the whole thing on my hands and knees, and then after like doing it many times, get to the stage where you can confidently almost run across it. But yeah, if you're not used to it, if you've just rocked up there for the first time in a race, you'd probably be like, what the heck's going on here? So yeah, I suppose there's quite a few people today that are probably very happy that they got diverted. Yeah, I'd say so.
That's always the thing that puts people off doing it in the first place, I find. Like, everyone I've spoken to that's wanted to do it but hasn't, has always been like, oh, it's Cribgoch. Like, that's the scariest part.
Yeah.
Like, other than that, they're like, oh, it'll be like hard, but it'll be alright. But that bit just
it's a crazy concept to think that there is such a route in a race. Like, I mean, if the amount of people that are going to go across it racing with that kind of mentality, you know, that you want to be quick, you want to move fast, and it's, you know, it's a hard scramble up there. You know, there's a lot of exposure on the scramble, isn't there? And if you're not used to doing that, there's some points up there where, yeah, if you look back over your shoulder and see the drop behind you, yeah, I've seen many people freeze up there. I don't know if you have. It's more so now. It's getting so popular up there. The amount of people I've had to bypass on the ridge because they've just frozen with fear to the rock, waiting for mountain rescue to come in. And I know from my own experience, there's a lot of people that do Dragon's Back that, because they live, you know, there's like lots of international racers that probably haven't come over here to wreck yet and have never done Cribgoch before. And if you don't know what's coming, that's going to be like, you're stuck there on the ridge not knowing that you had to do it. Yeah. It's a mad concept to think that is in that race, because there's nothing else like it in the race.
Yeah.
Like, after you've got through that Snowdon element of it, there isn't anything else like it. The rest of the race is literally just mountainous trails.
Yeah.
But you've got day one, which is all like the technical scrambling rocky stuff, and then tomorrow it starts off pretty rocky, but then it gets very boggy. There's one section, it's quite a good shortcut actually, but I remember running, probably walking, but there's a guy in front of me, probably about 20 metres in front of me, and he just disappeared up to there, just literally in a bog, just disappeared. And there's no warning, there's nothing, you're just walking along in some peat, and then next minute, you're gone, you're into bog. So tomorrow, especially with the rain that they've had, tomorrow's going to be pretty treacherous as well. So yeah, I'm watching it thinking, I'm glad I'm not doing it, but I am also a little bit of FOMO with it.
There's always going to be that FOMO.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you've done it and you know what it's about, and you forget the hard bits. You're just like, oh, that was fun. That was a good week.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, like every time it happens, you're like, oh, I wish I was doing that race again.
Yeah.
They're all in there just being like, why did I sign up for this? And you're like, I wish I was there.
Yeah, they're lying on a cold floor of a wet tent right now, thinking, what the fuck am I doing? And I've forgotten all that bit. Yeah. Because I tried it twice, so it was a big part of my life, like a huge part of my life for nearly enough 4 years. So I trained for the race for over a year, and then attempted the race, didn't do it. Then the following year I went back as a volunteer, because I think it's changed now, but when I volunteered, it got you a free race entry for either the following year. I think it just gives you credit, so you can use it for any of their races. But if you crewed for the full week at Dragon's Back, then you could enter the following year. So that was my intention, because it's a very expensive race to enter, and I couldn't justify paying it again. So
yeah,
I did a week volunteering. I've got a catering background, so I got put on the catering team, which I didn't mind. It was good fun. I enjoyed it. Hard work, like long hours, hard work. But I got my place for last year, and then did it. And yeah, kind of like to have like any other race, you train in 6 months maybe most, but for Dragon's Back for me it was over 3 years, near enough 4 years. So to do it all and then for it just to stop, it's kind of like, yeah, it's a bit weird. I know a lot of people are touching on this now, you know, like post-race blues, and some people suffer from it, some people don't get it at all. I don't normally get it, but Dragon's Back it left a big hole after it.
Yeah.
Like I met I've met some amazing people, some people that are going to be friends for life. You know, it was a very, very tight-knit community. And yeah, just everybody makes an effort. Like, we still get together, we still go out and we'll go hiking together, or we meet up and go for meals and stuff like that. And there is a good effort to keep in touch with everybody that I met through Dragon's Back. But finishing a race like that after such a long time, yeah, it does leave you feeling a little bit empty and kind of like, well, what's next? You know, what is gonna kind of get me excited again after such a big thing? There isn't, unless you go, you know, looking for something as crazy and as insane as Dragon's Back, and there isn't that much out there. It does leave you pretty lost for what to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason what got me into my current goal, which is Mont Blanc. That's my next challenge, is to climb Mont Blanc next year, unguided. So not stupidly. Like, obviously, there's a lot of danger and a lot of risk with alpinism, but I don't want to do it guided where you just go and pay, because I don't know if you know how it works, but with an alpine guide, you pay a good couple of grand, and these are people whose job it is, and they've been doing it for many, many years, and literally they just, I watched them myself on my last alpine trip. They literally just tie you to them and they just drag you up the mountain. They don't, and that's it. Literally, I watched so many people that, you know, didn't really have any business doing it. It was literally, you know, I'm sure you've seen all the footage of people on Everest, you know, just standing like in a queue waiting for their like brief moment on the summit. And it reminded me of that. It's just very commercialized, and it kind of takes away the adventure when you're literally letting someone else do it. Yes, you're the one actually physically doing it, but you don't have to take the time out to learn a craft, learn a skill, learn the safety elements to it. You literally just being tied to somebody who's insured, and you're letting them make all of the decisions and take all of the risk, well, nearly all the risk, and drag you up a mountain and back down. Yeah. And I just thought, it's not the route that I want to go down. So I had to decide how I was going to do it. It's not something you can just go and do yourself on your own. I'd never ever recommend anyone doing that. People do it, obviously, but they're people that have been doing it all their lives and have a lot of knowledge. So there was a guy that I met doing Dragon's Back, actually. We call him Sir Woolley. His name's Andrew Woolley, and he's like the typical, like, quintessential English gentleman. He's like just such an amazing guy. Got a lot of experience climbing and time in the mountains. He knows guides that go off and do Everest and things like that. And I went up to a place called Agile de Midi, which is like a tourist platform in Chamonix. You go on a cable car up to about 3,800 meters, and you get out the cable car onto platforms which are fastened around the summit of Agile de Midi, and it overlooks, well, there's no overlooks, it's lower, but you can look over to Mont Blanc from it. So it's a big tourist thing. When you get there, basically out the cable car, and 3,800 meters, you've got the lack of oxygen, you get all of the kind of sense of being in the mountains, but safely and without, you're not climbing, you don't have to have any gear or anything like that. It's literally just a little tourist trap with a restaurant up there and a gift shop, but you get to be as close to Mont Blanc and alpinism without actually doing it. And I was captivated by it, like really captivated by it. It takes a lot to get me like really like blown away by something, but standing there and like with that atmosphere, looking at Mont Blanc, and I just stood there and thought, yeah, that's pretty cool. And whilst we were there, so you can imagine it's like a platform made with like metal flooring with all the railings and stuff, but it's literally stuck to the side of the mountain. so you can actually see climbers that have come down or going up Mont Blanc, and they're all around you. And there was one particular ridge by where I was standing, and these two guys climbed up along the ridge, and they walked along this kind of like knife edge ridge, and then climbed up like a really thin metal rope ladder up, and they climbed over the railings onto the platform where myself and all the tourists were standing, all geared up with their rope coils and their helmet and the crampons and their ice axes, and I was just in awe. Just like, wow, that is what I would say is cool. That is just the coolest thing that I've probably ever seen. And at that point, I thought, I got to have a go at this. I just really want to try and do this. So back to my friend Sir Woolley. He was kind of like the only person that I knew that had ever kind of done that sort of thing. And I asked him, expressed my interest in it with him really, and chatted to him a lot about it. And said that I'd like to do Mont Blanc. And out of the blue, one day he messaged and said, look, a spot has come up for a weekend away to the Lake District we've hired a guide, and he's going to do some alpine emergency rescue training, which would be a good foot in the door for you for alpinism and Mont Blanc. Do you want to come along? I was like, yeah, definitely. So I travelled up to the Lake District, and we went up and climbed Pinnacle Ridge, it's called. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a grade 3 scramble.
Yeah.
So we climbed up that. We did that soloing, and then we did some rope work, and then spent an entire day doing emergency crevasse rescue with this guide. He taught us all how to do it, and that was mind-boggling, but really interesting. Then it was kind of like, it felt like a bit of a test. Like I was kind of invited into this group. Only one person I knew, the rest of them I didn't have a clue, and they're all very, very experienced climbers, and you know, they've done all sorts of alpine climbs, but I got on really well with them, and so much so that they invited me then to go to Scotland with them in January, and do some ice work and some snow climbing. So I went up there and we climbed a couple of them, but namely a mountain called Ben Macdui, which I think is an amazing name for a mountain. It's the second highest point in UK after Ben Nevis. And we climbed that, and it was like minus 16 degrees up there, so it was proper, everything was covered in ice. It was my first experience of kind of climbing and working in those sorts of conditions. And then, yeah, by this point, I was starting to get on well with the guys in the group, and we were talking about Mont Blanc and planning and stuff like that, and it progressed. Spent some more time with them up in Snowdon, that's where I started learning how to climb. So I did my first multi-pitch up there on Little Triven, which I'm sure you've done plenty of multi-pitching, but that was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Like, not good enough to lead climb. I haven't got the confidence to lead climb, but
you could. You could.
Well, physically maybe, mentally I don't know. Lead climbing's like, yeah, it's quite a scary prospect.
I mean, you've got the mentality to like run across Cribgork.
Yeah,
like
the
that's
stupidity.
way scarier.
It's not
than
mentality. That's
climbing.
stupidity. Do you think?
Oh, 100%.
Really? I don't know. It's I suppose it's experience. Like I said earlier, the first time I went across Cribgork, I was on my hands and knees, and then like 20 odd times later, I'm running across it. So yeah, my first ever multi-pitch, there's no way I was lead climbing it. No, maybe I'd progress onto it.
It was a Sea Cliff multi-pitch.
Yeah.
On the last pitch, the guy that I was with was like, do you want to lead this one, Will? I'd never placed a bit of gear in my life.
Yeah.
I have no idea why he trusted me. There was 3 of us though, so he was like guiding us almost, and then me and my mate were climbing up, and he was belaying us up each pitch. And it gets to the last one, and he's like, yeah, I'll like solo next to you. He had like a emergency rope set up, so he was like Jumaring up next to me, making sure I wasn't going to die.
Yeah, that's good.
while my mate was belaying me. And I was just like, yeah, like, let's go for it. So my first climb was, it was my first actual outdoor climb as well.
Yeah.
Like, I hadn't done any outdoor climbing.
Uh-huh.
And he was like, yeah, lead a pitch.
Yeah.
I just didn't know any better. So I was like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think that's it. Ignorance is bliss. I think, so from my little experience, that like I've done a fair few outdoor climbs now, but when you're being belayed, like, people don't realize, like, so most of the time you're on a pitch that is like, it's proper vertical, but if you let go of the rock, you're not going anywhere as long as the belay is switched on and they've got the rope tight. If you fall off the rock, you're not going anywhere. But with lead climbing, the thing that scares me is that you've got the drop from your last bit of equipment that you've put in, which, you know, could be enough to like cause some significant damage if you slam into the rock.
Yeah.
That's the scary bit for me. But people don't understand that. I think people see that if you're climbing up something that's vertical, that's where the risk. But yeah, with belaying, as long as you've got someone belaying you, you're not going anywhere. But multi-pitch, even on a gradient, it scares me.
Have you done much like sport climbing, or have you only done like trad climbing where you put the gear in?
I've done bouldering indoors, but that's it. That's my limit. I've not done anything outside on with walls with no equipment. No. And it's not something that I've like actually sat down and gone, I want to go and do this. It's this group that I found myself within that I'm going to go and do Mont Blanc with. It's almost like they're testing me, like, you know, we're going to go and do this. You're coming. I'm like, oh, great, okay. And they've looked after me really, really well, to be fair to them. But I found myself in these situations without actually planning to be in these situations, which is, I suppose, sometimes better, because the more you think about it, if I know what I'm going to get myself in for, I'll probably back out of it. So yeah, fair play to them.
I love that you just go anyway. You're like, I wasn't planning on this, but like, they've said I'm coming, so I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
I wish more of my friends were like that, because I'd just suggest anything. I'd be like, yeah, we're going. They're just like, I'm okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
everyone knows me well enough to be like, no, not going.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I do like adventure, and I'm not the sort of person to turn anything like that down. But I think ignorance is bliss in some cases like that. On the last climb we did, it's the first time I've abseiled outside as well, like proper abseiling where you're using the prusik to lower yourself, and that was scary. Like, stepping backwards off a cliff that's like, I don't know, 100 meters is honestly, I've never done anything like that before. You've got all the harness and the equipment, but you're in control of the prusik, and that was quite scary. And as I was stepping off backwards from there, the guy that I was climbing with on that day said to me, he said, you should have been a Blue Peter presenter. I was like, why? He said, 'cause you're just up for any mad shit. And literally, as I'm hanging off a wall backwards, I was like, yeah, fair enough. But that was good. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed abseiling. Yeah. I could do that again. That was like, after, like, once you go over the edge and you think, yeah, okay, everything works, I'm not going to die, and you start to find your rhythm with bouncing down. That was it, man. I was hooked. I wanted another go.
Oh, it's really fun.
Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed that.
I find it funny when I've been out with climbers doing sport climbs, so you like climb up, clip onto the bolts as you're climbing, and then you get to the top, and it's not like trad climbing where you're putting the gear in. Whenever you put the gear in, you have to be able to top out of the climb, and then there's like a route down walking, or you then set up an abseil. But I've been with loads of people that have climbed in, and they get to the top and they get lowered down and stuff, and then I've taken them abseiling, and they've absolutely shat themselves abseiling, and I'm like, it's just like getting lowered from a climb. Like, why is this different?
I don't know, because there is that element of self-control, isn't there? And I suppose when you're being lowered down, you're putting your trust and faith in someone else more than yourself, because there's still room for error, isn't there, with abseiling, whereas being lowered down, as long as the person doesn't let go of you, you're okay, aren't you?
Do you not find that scarier though, like trusting your life in someone else's hands compared to your own?
Stupidly, no. I mean, the guys, just to clarify, the guys that I'm climbing with, like one of them, Neil, Scottish guy, I think he's one of very few people to have the level of climbing instructor qualifications that he has. So he's got like the top tier, and there's only a handful of people
That
in the
makes
UK
sense.
that have it. So it's not like I'm just going out with someone that's been doing it for a couple of weeks and has all the gear and no idea. I'm with guys that are like top of their game, and they know what they're doing. And if you can't put your trust in them, then who can you? So I'm with the best people to learn.
Fair point.
And that's kind of why, where I've gotten to with this adventure to Mont Blanc. So a couple of weeks ago, we went out to Sarsgrund, which is a valley in Switzerland, and the plan was to get in a 4,000 meter mountain, like proper glacier climb, with all the crampons and the ice axe, and working together in teams of 3 roped up. Again, all new to me. They'd all done it before. I've never done it, but they took me under the wing and we went. And I think the second day we were there, we climbed a 3,800 meter mountain called Allenhorn. So it's not a glacier climb, it's literally just a rock climb. So it's like climbing Snowdon, but it's 3,800 meters, not 1,100 meters. And that was a good experience, but we did it to kind of test ourselves against the altitude. And I don't know if you've ever been up that high and experienced altitude. It's bizarre. It is like, I was prepared for it to have effect, but I wasn't prepared for how much of an effect it has and how it feels. It's I'd say I've raced around 2,500 to 2,800 meters before, and I know that I can operate quite well at that height. So I got up to there and I was fine. We were climbing steady pace, and then we touched on 3,000 meters, and then when we got to around 3,200, you start to feel it then. So it's like you're bouldering basically at that height. So you're doing some big movements, and every movement is like, it's as if you've just done a max effort sprint. Like one big movement, you have to take like a minute to recover from, just getting your breath. Your head's kind of a bit fuzzy and a bit headachy, and so your progression slows down massively at that height. And it is literally every movement that you make, you just gasping for air. And we got to the summit, but when you get to the summit, it's just kind of all of that just goes away. It is really cool. It's proper Alp summit with a big, huge metal cross at the top, and then they have, it's like a post box on the wall, and in there's a book in a couple of layers of plastic, and you sign the book to say that you summited on what day and when you did it, and loads of people put different notes in. You have all the photos and stuff of yourself up there, of course, and then you work your way back down, and on the way back down is when there's 6 of us, and all of us started to feel like the ill effects of altitude. So it's like really horrible, heavy headache, like one of the worst headaches I've ever had. It's literally like there's nothing in your skull, between your skull and your brain, and someone's just shaking your head. It's horrible. Everything just feels heavy, struggling to breathe, you feel nauseous, all of your muscles are like tightening and cramping, and everybody was just quiet. It was kind of like, we knew that we had to get down off the mountain, and everybody was moving as well as they could, but we weren't laughing and joking and messing around. Well, not messing around, but having fun like we were on the climb. It was very serious on the way down, and very focused. And we got back down to probably about 1,500 meters, and take some paracetamol and some water and stuff, and within a couple of hours we were all okay again. But it's a weird feeling. It's weird that you get that kind of ill, and then just by coming back down to a decent altitude, it all just disappears and you feel okay again.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a fast track way of doing it. A lot of people will go up, so before they do big climbs, they'll book in a mountain hut, which is like halfway, and they'll climb for a few hours and then sleep in the mountain hut to acclimatise that way, and then the following day you get out and climb the rest of the mountain. But we just wanted to go for it and get it in. It's not the safest way of doing it, but I think we were in control and it was okay. We all had we'd all made a rule with each other that if we had to discuss if anybody was feeling particularly unwell. They didn't just keep it to themselves. They had to make it very vocal and let everyone know that they were struggling, and that was kind of the rule. But we all managed it. And then we had a day of rest. Well, I say a day of rest. We went and did Via Ferrata. That was scary. Like, I'm with all these like traditional trad climbers that are all very experienced, and I'm not at all. And the exposure on that. You ever done Via Ferrata?
No.
Well, I mean, it's.
I'd love to. Well, I have this discussion with a few people because I like the exposure and everything, but I don't like the idea of like, oh, we're like clipping and following along like this route. It just seems like a cheap version of climbing.
Yeah.
I'd much rather climb, to be fair. But then when you're at those sort of altitudes and everything, then it's like that could be quite interesting.
Yeah. I mean, this wasn't a big one. This was like a lower level one, but so as a climber, it probably wouldn't have been that daunting for you. But for me, the exposure on some of it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, just, it was ridiculous. And some of the lads that I was with that were climbers, so I was climbing up, like, so Via Ferrata, obviously you've got the clips with the emergency bungee kind of rope, so if you fall, it kind of comes out like a parachute and just takes the slack in your fall so you don't break your back. But the rope that climbs up, the metal rope, you clip in and out of that. And I was using the rope a lot for security and to help me climb, whereas some of the lads that were with the climbers, they were challenging each other to not use the rope, so they had the safety feature, they were clipping in, but they were actually climbing the rock. They were insane. Just was literally just hanging from a rock with, I don't know, probably like 150 meter drop down below them, and they're just literally hanging off these rocks. No way. Like, I was shitting myself, and I was like properly holding onto the rope and clipped in. But good experience. So that was our rest day. I didn't feel like I rested that much. And then the following day, then we did our first like glacier climb. So that was 4,127 meters. I can't remember the name of the mountain. Should, but no, I can't. But that was incredible. It was just one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. It was just so cool. Proper like crampon ice walking, like one step in front of the other, just on a thin kind of knife edge ridge, and zigzagging your way up the side of the mountain. And we had really good weather. It was really clear. Stepping over massive crevasses, which are like huge underground caves, and you have like little snow bridges. So imagine like a cave below you, and these caves are like big enough to fit a house in, and it's a crack in the ice, so you can see how deep it is and how cavernous it is. But in parts, the ice hasn't split away, so you can work your way over it. They're too big to jump, but they're not big enough for people to put ladders down. So you have these little routes that you can still go over. But you're walking on something like that wide with death either side of you, basically. And it's scary. And then you've got you're walking like under things like seracs. Have you heard of seracs? They're like, so serac is probably, other than avalanche, probably one of the biggest killers up in the Alps. It's where the ice above you, so it's like an iceberg, but obviously on the side of a mountain, so these things are huge, and they overhang where you have to work your way through, so you walk in under it, and they're renowned for cracking and falling off. So, and they're that big. If it was to crack and fall off, it would just wipe out anything that's in its way on the mountain, and you wouldn't know about it. You'd be dead before you knew. But it's quite scary because you're walking under it, and it's literally just a big ice overhang. So we had to do a big section under this serac, which is quite nerve-wracking. And then you've got cornices, which are where, if you imagine the mountain, so you've got a huge drop like that, and then the mountain where you're walking on is at the side like that, but then the snow drifts, so it drifts over the edge. And if you don't know where the edge of the mountain is, if you go too far over onto the cornice, you've got the risk of it just cracking and dropping, and you go with it. So there's all these new dangers that I've had to learn about, and how to identify them, what to do if I fall into them and things. There are, like with the cornice and the seracs, there's nothing you can do. But a lot of the other stuff, you have to be really switched on and concentrating fully for the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then you've got the altitude as well on top, and then walking with crampons. It's weird. It's like what I imagine walking around like you've shat your pants. It's like you literally have to like sit like deep into it and walk with your legs apart, because if you catch your crampons, which is quite easily to do, and you trip and you literally sliding off the side of the mountain, which again you're trying to avoid. So there's a lot of new things like that I had to learn, how to use your ice axe for balance and support, and how to self-arrest if you fall and things like that. But yeah, it was just incredible. Once you've kind of got your head around all of that and you're putting it into practice, it was it was really good experience. And the views up there, like something I've never seen before. It's just incredible views. Like, you'll have to have a look at some of the photos that I've posted on Instagram. They're just
like, I have looked at a few of them.
Yeah, they're just honestly they're mind blowing. It's literally, it's like you can touch the clouds. The cloud level is literally just above your head in some parts, and you can see one of the best views that I had was the Matterhorn. You know, the traditional like they call it the Toblerone mountain. Yeah, so you've got the Matterhorn right in the middle of all of the range, and then sitting behind it then is the Mont Blanc Massif, which is just big snow-capped like massive mountain just sitting there. And that's probably the best kind of view I think I've ever seen in my life. I was in awe of it. Just annoyingly, you're not allowed to hang around and loiter at the top of the mountain. You've got to keep moving, and yeah, it's it becomes like a bit of a race. So you get, because you're controlled by the temperature. So the mountain and the conditions start to deteriorate after when the sun starts to hit it. So a lot of summits are done early hours. So a lot of people set out at like 3-4 in the morning to summit at sunrise, so you can get back off the mountain before the sun hits it, because when it does, all the ice starts to melt, and then it turns into what they call sugar. So instead of the crampons having good firm grip underfoot, the snow just starts to melt, and yeah, you lose your footing, and it's the last thing you want. So yeah, it does turn into a bit of pressure to get back down in time, but it just adds to the excitement and the adventure of it.
I was gonna ask, like, a lot of what you've described with alpinism is like, oh, this is really dangerous, this is really scary, this is another way that you could die. Yeah. Best day of my life.
Yeah.
Like, how do the two come together for you?
I don't know. I mean, so I'm not an adrenaline junkie. I've done things like jumping out of planes and bungee jumping and stuff like that, and I do get a buzz from it. Anyone would, but I don't know. It's a good question. It's one that I've thought about quite a lot. Like, why do I do it? Why do I put myself in this situation? And life is for living, and it's kind of, I want to experience these things. I want to see how I respond to it. I want to know more about myself, and I am finding more about myself by putting myself in these situations. How you respond to it, how you feel, and it's kind of, if you do it once and you think that's not for me, I hated it, the risk is too much and I didn't get any enjoyment from it, fine, at least you know. But you have to try to be able to establish that, and that's pretty much become what it's about for me, is finding what I enjoy doing, what I can achieve, and if I do enjoy it, then I'll progress it, I'll push a little bit further. I have to find my limits, because otherwise, like we've already discussed, I'm the sort of person that's like, here's a rope, you back off this side of this cliff and I'll hang on to you, and I'm gullible enough to go, okay. So I have to, in seriousness, I have to know my risks, what my limit is. But yeah, it's very much about just finding more about myself and finding what I enjoy. And alpinism is definitely, it's hit something that's just clicked.
Yeah,
it's just incredible, and I don't think anything else has ever come as close to it. It's just a feeling that I can't describe. It is if you know kind of thing. And if you talk to somebody else that's done it, there is that kind of connection and that click that you can't get. It's a hard thing to describe to somebody that hasn't done it. But I can try my best, but
It's how much they can relate to that.
yeah.
And it's like, I say the same about the feeling after you like complete an ultra.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, you can compare it to the feeling of finishing your first half marathon.
Yeah.
But it's different.
Mm-hmm.
And you only really understand the difference when you've done one.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just can't. You're like, oh yeah, like that sounds good, and it's like, no, it's more than that.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, what is it? And it's like, well, it's just more than that.
Yeah.
And you just can't quite put into words exactly the experience.
Uh-huh.
But some things are just meant to be experienced.
Yeah, definitely. And it's human nature, isn't it, to try something and then see, could I just go a little bit further? Could I push myself that bit more? And and challenging yourself, it's perfectly normal, I think, for a human to try and challenge yourself. And if you're not challenging yourself, whether it's through adventure or sport or work or whatever, then it's a pretty mundane, boring life, isn't it? If you're not pushing your boundaries and trying new things, it doesn't have to be extreme.
Yeah.
Just something that's challenging yourself. It's I can't imagine a life without doing that.
Yeah.
And I'm incredibly lucky to have experienced what I've experienced so far, and I don't want to push my luck with it at all, but Mont Blanc is going to be a huge challenge for me. It will be the biggest thing I've ever done, the riskiest thing I've ever done, but also I anticipate it being the most rewarding and amazing thing that I've ever done. Yeah. And I'm really focused on doing that now. I've got a big year next year of I'm doing the Epona, which that's May, and I want to be quite competitive in it if I can. Then I've got Mont Blanc, and then I'm going to do. I've already signed up for Ironman Copenhagen, and I've got a little challenge of myself that I want to do a sub 10 hour Ironman before I'm 50, and I've come so close, but I haven't done it yet. So that's my goal for next year. So I've got a big year next year. three big challenges.
That's a massive year. That's not just a big year. That's a massive year, and they're all so different.
Yeah,
that's the most impressive, but also the hardest thing about that. Because it's like, I've had a big year this year for running, but it's all running.
Yeah.
Like everything I've done has led into the next, and it's like even some of my other like biggest ultras other than the 6, I'm like, that's just training for the 6. Whereas it's like, Epona's not really training for Mont Blanc. Well, and Mont Blanc's not really training for Copenhagen.
See, I am going to disagree with you because I've tried this. It is tried and tested. So I did an Ironman 5 weeks before Dragon's Back, and I trained for both races as equally. So I did as much time in the mountains as I did on my bike. But I think that training for an Ironman benefited me and my training for Dragon's Back. The year when I did it before, I was solely focused on long running days in the mountains, and I just broke my body basically doing it. Whereas training for an Ironman is far less impact training on the bike. You're still building your endurance. If you climb in on the bike, you're pushing through the pedals, you're pushing out power. That translates pretty well to pushing yourself up the side of a mountain with some poles. Swimming is probably the least impact sport that you can do, but yet you have to have a very good level of fitness to be able to swim a long way at speed. So I actually think it works well, especially for like an aging athlete like myself. I just can't run the kind of distance that is needed for these races. So spending the time on the bike, obviously you have to run, you have to get your body used to that kind of volume and distance, but I definitely think that riding the bike and swimming contributes towards your overall fitness and keeps you safer. So I actually think I think there is method in my madness.
There is, and I agree with the whole concept of cross training and getting benefits outside of just like there's only so much specificity that you can do in training.
Yeah.
Like runners that only run and don't do strength training or anything else, I'm like, you're missing a trick here.
Yeah.
But you still have to get, like, for a 100-miler, to be competitive in a 100-miler, you still have to get a lot of running in.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's going to be some crossover because obviously there's running in a triathlon as well, right? I think it does all help with that base fitness, but the specificity, just you need a level of that. And when you're doing all three of those things at the same time, that is quite a balance, I think.
Yeah.
It's obviously doable, but you have to get it right and know what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And
your experience as a coach is obviously like you've got that background and that knowledge to make the right decisions.
Yeah. I am relying on that a lot. I'm relying on my experience and my knowledge to do it. I'm not just kind of going into it with complete blasé approach. It will be very calculated and focused what I do over the winter in the lead up to Epona, and ensuring that I can recover from Epona and then go into my Ironman specific block, not like from scratch. So I'll be going into it with an already good strong base, and then it'll just be dialing in the training then to make it specific for Ironman. But it's not like I'll be starting again.
Yeah.
And then obviously for Epona, the focus will be on elevation and time on feet in the mountains. But I don't know if you saw the interview with Tom Evans after UTMB. He was talking about how hiking and power hiking was a huge factor in his win. And I've heard so many people saying that before. And I do agree that for these sort of races, it's unrealistic to go out and run all of the time that you need to be spending on your feet. You're just going to ruin yourself before you even get to the race. So a lot of these races, you are hiking. So therefore, it makes sense to actually go out and hike, learn how to hike well, not just slowly trudging up the mountain like you might do at the weekend with your family and your dog. I mean, like, proper purposefully hiking, but it's not running, it's hiking, and it's less toll on your body, and if you get good at it, then you can cover a lot more ground without actually having to run per se. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on, and I'm quite looking forward to that. I enjoy hiking. You see more, you notice more when you're hiking. When you're just running head down in the mountains, you're in the most beautiful part of the country, and you're head down, and you're just looking at what you're stepping on. Whereas at least with hiking, you can take it all in and enjoy it a bit more. So yeah, there'll be a big element of running, obviously, but yeah, I'm going to spend as much time as I can in the mountains hiking, to be honest, and I'm hoping that will play part in being competitive.
Yeah. Something I want to go back a little bit to is when you're talking about the sort of desire for adventure as a person, and like he was like, oh, like if you're not doing this sort of stuff, like life's pretty boring.
Yeah.
Something that I've been struggling with, like the concept of recently, and I used to struggle with this a lot. And then I started my podcast and I met loads of people like me. And then I'm like, yeah, these are my people. And like from my coaching and everything else, and I'm meeting like more people that aren't like me again, then it's sort of brought it back up of like, not everyone has that drive.
Yeah.
And I think there's might be like a little bit of maybe biology in that, of like...
Well, so... I was thinking about the question that you start your podcasts with and how best to answer that. And I was going to give it a long-winded answer, and I thought better of it, but now you brought it up. So no one in my family, nobody at all does any sport. As long as I know, the only person, so my uncle did, you heard of that ancestry thing? So we did the ancestry, and it went back, I don't know, maybe like 4 generations, they found that my great granddad was a cyclist time trialer, and that, which I thought was amazing, because I've done time trials on the bike, and it's a big part of training for Ironman is doing time trials. The bikes where you've got the funny helmets and you're in this position flying along the bypass. But that is the only record of anyone in my family having anything to do with sports and endurance. Just no one. I wasn't brought up around it. I didn't know anyone in my family that did it. So whether it is biological or not, I don't know. But one thing that I can tell you is that my family, as far as I'm aware from both sides, have had this incredible work ethic. It's all been about career. Like, all my family have had businesses, their own businesses, successful businesses, and that's been instilled in me from a young age. So I started working when I was young through school to earn money, and then I started working as a chef when I finished college, and I had a desire to become a second chef, and then a head chef, then a catering manager, and then with the ultimate goal of owning my own restaurant. And I succeeded in all that. I did it all pretty fast, and then I ended up owning 2 restaurants. So I owned and ran one very successful restaurant for about 9 years. And that was before. So I did my martial arts whilst I was doing that, but I hadn't started any of my triathlon whilst I was doing that. And that, to do that, to be successful, especially in catering, which is a really hard industry to be successful in and to work it, I had that drive and that motivation. And I think all I've done is I got to a point where I thought, this isn't what I want from life. I'm giving up all of my time, everything that I've got, to manage my business and earn money, and it's like, it's not doing it for me anymore. It's kind of, what's the point in doing this? Yes, I'm earning a living, but I'm not doing anything else. I'm literally not. So I gave it all up, and I got myself a job which gave me a lot more free time, and I started focusing on what I'm doing now. And I think, in answer to your question, all I've done is I've switched that over. So instead of focusing purely on my career and my business, I've now got a job where I don't really have to, obviously I do my job and I do it well, but it's I've got so much more time, and I've switched that dedication and that drive to something that I enjoy and something that's making me a better person. And I'm learning a lot more about myself doing that than I ever did through all my career.
Yeah.
So there's not, I think the biology side of it, I think it's there, that kind of drive, that motivation to better yourself and to succeed. That's there biologically, but I don't think the physical aspect of it has been a big part of biology for me. Definitely not.
Yeah, but just the sort of that need for adventure, that need for exploration, because I always think of it of like, well, that's how like humans explored the earth and spread and colonized everything, and you always hear those stories, but then not every human did that. Like there were the ones in that original village that stayed in that village, and that's also part of it. Like once you've explored, you then have to set up camp and everything, and then there are people that are going to stay there and more are going to go off and explore. And I think maybe there might be something in people where you've either got that call or you haven't. Because I always think about like that first question, what was your call to adventure? And I ask it very specifically to people that I see have answered that call. Like there's been that moment where you can keep living the normal life, or you can go off and start this new life of adventure and sport or activity or whatever it might be, like alpinism. But then there's people that have the same opportunities, but they don't ever answer the call. Like it's a literal phone call. Like you can answer it or you can just leave it be. And so many people leave it be. And I don't tend to invite those people on the podcast because I don't know what I've talked to them about. But that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, or is there something that people can do to spark that within themselves, or spark that within others around them?
I suppose it's like fear of the unknown, isn't it? It's, I think I try and remember this saying correctly. I think I read it before I did my race challenge Roth for GB, and it was I test myself now, see if I can remember it. It's nothing prolific, but it's like the best things in life are on the other side of fear. I think that was the saying, and I think that's quite very true in that. So if you know, for a lot of people, if it's, you know, if you've been invited to go and do something like me, I've been invited to go and like climb up and jump off rocks and stuff, you know, if I had said no, would I have sat there and regretted it and thought, what if, you know, maybe I should have done that? I want to know, you know, would I have been capable of doing it? Would I have enjoyed it? Would I have died? You don't know. You go and do it, isn't it? And what would you do? To spend your life just sitting there wondering, you know, with what ifs and what could have beens? That's no life, is it? Not really. I think if you're given an opportunity and you have an opportunity, or make an opportunity yourself, it doesn't have to be anything massive like climbing Everest, does it? It could be going to do your local park run, or, you know, whatever. It doesn't matter if it's something outside of your comfort zone. You'll never know unless you go and try it. So yeah, I think everyone's call to adventure is different. And it's the same when I opened my first restaurant. So that was a leap. You know, I was giving up a job that was paid, had all the security, and I decided that I wanted to open my own restaurant and work for myself. It's kind of similar, and, you know, in mindset, it's similar. It's a similar thing. You're stepping, you know, into the unknown. You don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of fear in it, because it could just go tits up and you end up, you know, unemployed, and all that money's gone to waste. And so it's kind of a similar thing. You know, adventure doesn't have to be climbing Everest. It could be, you know, opening your own business or whatever. I think it's just something that is out of the ordinary, and it's a, you know, a scary step, but one that might lead to amazing things.
Yeah.
So that's my take on it anyway.
I think it's interesting to wonder about, because I guess you're the same, like as a coach, you're always trying to get the best out of your athletes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, sometimes you can see potential in someone and you're like, oh, you could be like amazing at doing this or that, or like,
Mm-hmm.
you can just see more capability than they believe they've got.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, how do I get that out of them?
It can be the most frustrating thing though as a coach. I've had a few athletes recently, one person in particular that just has the ability to be great, but in a way it's a good quality. It's like that person knows it, but they kind of don't want to know it. They enjoy what they're doing at the level that they're doing it too much to want to pursue that greatness. It might be something that they do in the future, and I hope that they do, but yeah, it's kind of frustrating from a coaching perspective when you're like, you know, if you focus this and you did this and this, you could be up here, kind of thing. But yeah, it's kind of a difficult thing as a coach, where you've just got to, you know, remind yourself as a coach that, you know, ultimately these people that have chosen to be coached by you because they want to achieve things, but they also want to enjoy it. And, you know, it's a lot of sports can, coaching in sports can take a lot of the enjoyment away from it. Like I used to work for the national pool in Swansea, which, have you ever been there? It's a 50-metre Olympic pool facility in Swansea. It's an amazing setup, and it's part of the university there. So they have, they've had Olympic squads training there. They've had the university high-level elite swimmers there. And I worked there for about a year, just before COVID. So I got to see and interact with all of these elite swimmers that literally from a young age, they would swim as we opened in the morning, so they were there ready to swim before 6 o'clock. They would swim for about an hour and a half, and then they would come back at about 4 o'clock and swim again for about an hour and a half to 2 hours, 6 days a week. And then on a Sunday morning, they would swim once for 2 hours, and they'd do that every single week, like without fail. Like, that is insane, I think, and it's very regimented, very, very strict. And you could just see some of these guys, some of these athletes, they were broken by it. You know, some of them thrived on it, don't get me wrong, but yeah, it kind of made me think that, yeah, sometimes people you know, when they're coached to a certain level, it takes out the enjoyment. These people are being coached and trained for, you know, the benefit of 2 seconds faster than someone else. On, you know, they're having to sacrifice their youth and their life to be an art. I'm very mindful of that when I coach people. Is ultimately, you know, I'm coaching people because they want to achieve something they've set themselves, but I don't want to take the fun out of it as well. I want them to come back. I want them to continue to do the sport. If I was to be harsh and push somebody to the breaking point just to get through a race, they'd probably do the race and then, you know, not want coaching anymore. So it's not a good business plan. That. So I'm very conscious of that. But yeah, occasionally I'll notice people that have that extra, you know, something else that other people don't have.
Yeah.
And you've got to try and make them realise it without spoiling their fun.
Yeah.
It's quite a hard thing to do.
I can see very much how, like, I relate to that as a coach and being like, I can see so much in you. And like, for me, like, a lot of it is they don't have the confidence in themselves to like even think that that's possible.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're like scraping like just the surface of your possibility. Like, we could get this so much more. But then I can see how, as an athlete, I would be very frustrating to you, because like, I want to do so many things that, like, being told like, oh, you have to do this and this, then I'm going to be like, no, I'm going to go rock climbing now. And like, I would be like a coach's like worst nightmare when it comes to that, because they'd be like, you could be really good at this, and I'm like, yeah, but I want to be really good at this now. Like, I'm done with that, like, I'm doing this and I'll come back to this later. But
It's a hard element of coaching. Like, I use a platform called Training Peaks to coach. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's got this thing, and it's a good thing, it's a bad thing, but it's got this system to it where if an athlete completes a session that you've given them, like within, I don't know, 90% accuracy over time and what it is, it shows green for complete. If they've done the session but they've done it wrong, so say they've done less time, or they've not done it as you've prescribed, it'll show as orange. If they've not done it at all, or done the session completely wrong, it shows as red. And a lot of athletes are driven by this, and it's a bit weird. Some are very, very OCD, that if they don't get a complete green week, then it wrecks their head, and they just can't deal with it. They really think that they failed, and the world's going to collapse, and they're not going to be able to complete their next race because they've not. And it's a bit of a bone of contention for me. But there are other athletes that don't give a shit. Like you said, you know, they don't care. If they want to go off and do something completely different to what the plan is, they will. And then I have to kind of like, okay, so that was a key session that you've missed, so I'm gonna have to move that to this day and move that around, just to make sure that you're getting in the sessions that you need to be able to meet, you know, the goals that you've set yourself. That proves a bit of a challenge sometimes, but I think that's why they've got a coach.
That floor on that ceiling, isn't there? It's like, this is the minimum I need you to do. And this is like top tier, like you've done everything perfectly, and there's that level of acceptance then. But you can't ever tell them what the floor is, because some athletes, because they're going to be like, well, I want to like just like nudge it under a little bit, and they just want to play the game with like, what are the boundaries here?
Definitely. But it's like the natural athletes, so the guys that are just naturally good at it, I find they're the ones that will push it a little and maybe not complete sets and do their own thing and go off piste a little bit. But the athletes that come to me that aren't, you know, they're not naturally gifted with it, but yet they stick to the plan, and they are consistent. Like, I'm sure as a coach yourself, consistency is key. That is the biggest. It doesn't matter how good you are, what sessions you do, how much you train a week. If you're consistent, it's going to bring you up that extra level. And I see that so much, and it's nice when you see an athlete that is consistent and then they get rewarded for it. It's kind of like, it proves a lot of points, I think, in structured coaching, and makes you feel a little bit more valid as a coach, that when somebody without natural talent follows your plan, follows it to a T, and then they succeed. So there we are. That's why you've got a coach and it works. So yeah, it can be a good thing and a bad thing for some people.
Yeah.
But I do like it. Is outside of all my own little kind of racing and adventures, coaching is very rewarding. Something I do as a hobby. It's not my main job. And I don't have a lot of athletes because I don't really, I don't want to take on too many people and not be able to give them the time that they deserve. But I do find it incredibly rewarding.
Yeah.
It's good.
When it's coming to your training, then, like you said about Epona, you're gonna be focusing like on big hikes. That's gonna be like a big chunk of your training.
Yeah.
What does your training block when it comes to transitioning to Ironman then look like?
So it'll just be a switch from so up to Epona. It'll be run dominant, and then bike, and then swim, and then strength and conditioning within. Say run dominant. The time on feet, it'll be run and hiking, and then just switching out from Epona. I'll probably take a couple of weeks off running entirely just to make sure that I'm fully recovered and I'm not going to go into my Ironman block with any risk of any niggles or injuries. And I will have banked so much run endurance that I won't have to be chasing any fitness, and the bike will just be ramped up massively, because in an Ironman that is the biggest portion by a long way, the bike, and that is where my sub 10 hour attempt will like be made or broken, to be honest. I'm not a good enough runner to come off a poor bike and make up the time to get sub 10 hours. But I'm a good enough swimmer and a good enough cyclist, I think, to be able to set myself up to be able to get a sub 10 hour with a mediocre marathon.
I love the fact that you're just like, I'm not a good enough runner for this, but you're quite accomplished in your running, and like that it makes me laugh. Like, I get it's to do with like speed of marathons and like whatever else, but
it is a funny thing. I primarily run like ultras. I run a lot. That is the biggest thing that I do at the moment. But I don't consider myself to be a good runner. I'm not breaking any records in 5k. It's I can just about go sub 20 minute for a 5k. At my age, which I've got mates that are like going out and running in championships and doing like 16 odd minute 5Ks, and that's fast.
Yeah.
What I'm doing it in is not fast at all, to me anyway. It's not, and I kind of think that's why I like ultra, because I don't have to go fast. I'm more of a steam engine. I can run all day at an okay pace, and I'm happy with that. It doesn't have to be blistering speeds. I don't have that. I don't have it, so therefore I don't really train for that. I train to be able to hold a decent pace for a long time, and that kind of comes in conjunction with the same on the bike. The bike of an Ironman is 112 miles, 180k. It's a long bloody way, and you're holding, to be able to do the times that I'm planning. You it's a sustained effort. It's not, you can't like just take a little breather here and there. It's, you are literally head down in that position for the full duration. You can't decide to, I'm going to sit up here and have a bit of a relax and take it easy for 5 minutes. It is full on head down power. Do not let up at all. And that kind of gives you, good kind of base for running ultras, for sure, because it's the same. It's like I did what's the Pegasus run along the canal?
The Cannon.
Yeah, everyone says that they hate that route, because it's, for me, it's, I did alright. I podiumed at that race this year, and I wanted to do well at it, but whether I podiumed or came top 10, it was kind of irrelevant. It was, I always say that you can only race the people that are there on that day, you know, and some days you're the better, some days you're way off the people at the podium, you know, you don't know who's going to turn up until you're there. So the result is partly to do with how well you've trained and how you perform, but it's also, your result is also based on the people that turn up. And I do think that I was slightly lucky in that race. I was sensible in my approach and my tactic, but one thing that I was happy about, regardless of position or time or anything like that, is that I went out at target pace and held that pace for the whole thing, and I only stopped once. So out of all of the checkpoints, I only stopped at the bag drop just to get my own fuel. That I didn't want to carry the whole race's fuel from the start. So that was my tactic, was to get to my bag drop, having finished all of my fuel, get my new stash of fuel, and then carry on. I didn't even take it out. I took, I think, one piece of watermelon from the aid station. That was it. But for me, that was my tactic, and it paid off. You know, it paid off big time. Managed to get on the podium, and that it wasn't a fast pace. You know, it was my everyday kind of easy pace. But to be able to hold and sustain that pace for, what is it, 30 miles?
40
miles. That's the difference, I think, between doing well and doing not. It's not fast. Not by any means it's fast. If you put that pace on a 5k, it's slow. It's really slow. But you put it on a 40-mile race and it's okay.
Yeah.
Still nowhere near like the guy that's tearing up the slam this year. His pace that's good. That's a good pace.
Salvis is a good runner.
Yeah. Yeah, he's doing well. But you know, for me, that I'm happy with that. You know, I was kind of proud of myself for holding that pace for that length of time without really dropping off. That's the other good thing. And that's where the podium came in as well. Is that I didn't go off all guns blazing at the start. I held back around with the pack at the start, and then I just held my pace. Didn't venture away from it. Stuck by it regardless of who was around me or who was in front of me. And as the race progressed, I was passing people towards the end. I think I took third place with about 10k to go, comfortably. I cruised past the person that was clearly struggling in third place, because that person had obviously gone out way too hard.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's at with ultras, is being able to hold an okay pace but sustain that pace and not drop off, not go too hard. And I think it's a tactical thing more than it is kind of like who's the fastest.
It's a discipline thing by that point, I think, because in a race the tendency is I'm going to go hard because I'm racing, and then you blow up because there's such a long distance.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it takes us back to my discussion on Dragon's Back, is looking at some of the people that have come in today quite high up. There are a few people there that will continue at that blistering pace for the rest of the week. I know one guy who's third today, Danny. He's somebody that I met first throughout, so he's part of our little Dragon's Back crew, and he was my tent pod buddy last year, but he was up there in the top 5 for the first 3 days, and then he got, as most people do in that race, got tendinopathy in his shin and had to pull out, and he's gone back this year, and he's trained really well for it, and he came in third place today. But I think he'll sustain that pace for the rest of the race, where there's a lot of people that came in good times today that I'm aware of, and I really don't think they'll be able to maintain that kind of pace or overall position for the rest of the week. They're just they're not strong enough, they're not up there enough, I think, to, although they've not gauged it well. Like my point with the ultras is that you kind of work out what your pace is, what you know that your body can sustain for a long duration, and you discipline yourself to stick at it. You don't get absorbed into the race, you don't get carried away by chasing people, or you don't get carried away by chasing positions. Like if you look, not last year it was won by a pro runner, but the years before, the people that have won are people that have come from like top 20 and work their way up through the week. So as the front runners, the strong guys have like messed themselves up and had to pull out, these kind of like people that have been steady and consistent are creeping up through the ranks. And then sometimes, I think it was James Nobles, I think he was quite low down and he just maintained an amazing pace but consistent, not too brutal, and he won it. And that for me says it all. That's like, it's incredible if you can do that just by being a good runner, yes, but not chasing that glory and that, from day one. You just rabbit in the hair, isn't it? That's the fable. It's a prime example of that being the way to tackle an ultra for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. When it comes to your training for Mont Blanc then, how much specific training do you have to do from that? Not skill related, so not like, obviously, like you've got to learn all the skills and the techniques and the safety behind it. And obviously you need that general fitness. How much specific fitness or training do you need to do something like that?
In addition to what I already do, none. And that's one of the things that I was really happy to learn in my last trip to Sarsgrund, is I was with a group of guys that are all relatively fit, but there's one guy there who is he's a trad climber. I actually coach him now as based on the week away. He struggled with his fitness massively, even though he's a good climber and he's got a lot of experience. He struggled with the altitude and the fitness, because we're not moving fast at all. You're literally trudging one step at a time, with one, really just one foot in front of the other. It's a very slow pace, but because you're climbing gradients at that altitude, it does feel like you're working a lot harder and moving a lot faster. So I think I didn't struggle at all. I felt the effects of the altitude, and it's weird. It's almost like someone's putting their hand on your head and kind of compressing your effort. It's like, why aren't I moving? But yeah, I feel like I'm like really powering on, but yeah, I'm not going anywhere. I don't think that I have to do anything specific other than what I already do as an endurance athlete. You've got the two ends of the scale with your training. You've got the long, slow stuff at zone 2, which builds all the the mitochondria and your endurance engine. And then you've got the upper end, which is the VO2 max stuff, and you can work them as long as you get the percentage of what you work them correct. A lot of coaches use 80-20. I do for myself and the majority of the guys that I coach. 20% of it I'll be working my VO2 max, my threshold and above, and then the rest of the 80% will be really easy stuff and really endurance stuff. And I think just a combination of the two of those, which is what I use for all my triathlon training and all my ultra training, just plays really well into climbing these big mountains.
Yeah,
and that's as simple as that. But it's interesting that this guy that I now coach, because he's not doing triathlon, he's not doing ultras or any running kind of thing. He's literally taking me on as his coach to get him fit to be able to do Mont Blanc without struggling and having to stop for prolonged periods of time to get his breath and keep moving. He wants to be able to be fit enough to climb Mont Blanc without rest and without blowing out of his arse. And to coach him for that, I'm going to coach him like a runner.
Yeah.
With a little bit of cross-platform training in there, just so he doesn't burn himself out. But there's no special ingredient. There's no there's nothing unusual to it. I'm literally just going to train him like a runner.
Yeah,
and that's it.
And what does the strength training look like throughout? It's going to be like all pretty similar, the gym stuff, but what does that look like? Is it like 2 days a week, 3 days a week? Are you going full body sessions, splitting it? Or?
Yeah, so if I use myself as an example, because some of my athletes, if I feel that they need them or they ask me specifically, I will prescribe them strength and conditioning plans. But I do for myself. So in the winter, it's big, heavy compound stuff that I'll do. So it'll be mostly double leg stuff. I do upper body as well, but it's mostly just your regular compound movements, like deadlifts and bench press and shoulder press and all of that sort of stuff. But low, like heavy weight. So I'll be doing 4 sets of 5 maybe. That's it. But two max. So the last couple of reps, I'm like struggling. And I'll do that for the winter, and then I'll switch to a little bit more functional S&C. So I'll start to include then single leg stuff like your Bulgarian split squats and box steps and stuff like that, and just doing everything single leg press, all the calf work, a lot of calf work for ultra running and climbing, definitely, because when you're climbing gradients, there's a lot of pressure through your Achilles and through your calf, so big focus on that. And then as it starts to get towards race season or whatever it is that you're targeting, then I'll start to put a few plyometrics into there. Don't think there's any need really for more than 2. I do it full body. I'm not, it's not for bodybuilding, so I don't really use push-pull leg phases like a bodybuilder would. I do full body stuff, and then mobility stuff. So the third day would normally be mobility stuff at home, which would be band work and light work, more functional stuff, balancing on wobble cushions and doing like runners arabesques and that sort of stuff, and just things that challenge the ankle stability. That's a big part of mountain running is ankle stability and stretching, strength through that. So that's it really. It's nothing unique. I haven't got any kind of special methods that no one else has heard of. It's all tried and tested stuff, and it works. So why change it?
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy to overcomplicate it, especially when you're a coach and you're like, I need to do the best for my athletes, and what's that like little extra percentage I can give them. It's so easy to get sucked into like reading everything and being like, I need to include this, but I also need to include this, and then you're building like 2-3 hour long training plans, and like, is this too much?
It does become unrealistic, and there's so many different exercises out there that have the same purpose, the same function, and it's like, I'm sure you're the same. It's there's a lot of exercises that I love doing and a lot of exercises that I hate doing, and it's just about finding what you enjoy doing and what you don't, and then making sure that there is a substitute for the ones that you don't enjoy, so you're still getting the full workout, full coverage, and that's where you need the knowledge of a coach. I think somebody that can write a plan based around that, and also I coach people that have mobility issues or past injuries and things like that, and you need to be able to work around that so they're still getting the best out of it that they can without flaring up that injury or risking any further issues. So that I enjoy doing that. I do use myself as a guinea pig a lot in strength and conditioning. I like to.
That's the fun in it, though.
Yeah, definitely. Try things out myself. If I think, that's good, that works, I really like that, I got a good pump off that, and I feel lots of benefit from it, guaranteed you'll find it in one of my athletes' plan at some point. Definitely.
I love it because I coach, like, everyone that I've got is like, they've got completely different goals. I've got a guy in at the moment who had this really weird shoulder injury, and it was like they couldn't figure out, like, he's had private physio, he's had NHS physio, he's had like chiropractor, everything looking at his shoulder. Sorry. And he couldn't, like, no one could figure out what was wrong with it, but it just wasn't engaging properly. So he'd try to lift his arm overhead, and his scapula would, like, come off, and, like, he would end up doing this really weird leaning thing. No one could figure out what it was, and I was like, right, well, I'll just work within our limitations. Like, you keep going to your physios, keep doing their exercises, whatever they've said you do, but then we're going to try and do this stuff on the side of it. And the sort of 6 months where he was injured before coming to me, he was like, I'm at the point where I'm just about to give up. Like, I'm just accepting that my shoulder's never going to be right again. I just got to live with it. And it came out of nowhere as well. There wasn't like an impact injury or anything. And then I was like, oh, like, can I try some stuff with you and have a look at it? And I was like, I have no idea what's going on. I'll be honest. Keep with your physios, but like, let's try some of this stuff. And actually saw him in the gym today, and he was doing 7.5 kilo single arm dumbbell overhead press, and it looked normal.
Yeah.
And I was like, can you remember like 6 months ago when you couldn't do that with your arm? And he was like, yeah, like the progress is incredible. And the amount of sort of exploration I've had to do just to fit his needs has been like incredible. And we found this exercise that he loves doing and I love doing, and now I'm like, oh, I'm gonna use this elsewhere. But I can't always be the guinea pig because I've got so many people with different goals, and I want to try it all, but I can't. So now I'm having to like trust certain people to be my guinea pigs. They don't know it, but I'm like, yeah, that's my guinea pig for that stuff. You're for that. And then when I see it working, then you just see it filter into everyone's plans, and you're like, okay, like,
it's a good way of doing it.
You can see people in my gym, like you can point out my athletes because you'll just see them doing things that no one else is doing. You're like, oh, they train with Will. Like, it's obvious.
Yeah, it's quite specific stuff, isn't it? It's like you go into a gym where predominantly the people in there are bodybuilders, and you stick a triathlete in there. Yeah, they stick out like a sore thumb. They're the ones standing on a box, one on one foot, kind of trying to balance. Looking like a bit of a plonker. You can tell them a mile off, can't you?
Yeah. You need the right athletes to do that with, though, because like I'm in a commercial gym, so like you just get your everyday people in. If I gave them like plyometrics, they're going to be like, I'm going to look like an idiot. I'm not doing that. And as much as I'm like an advocate for plyometrics, especially for some of their goals, like they're getting into running and stuff, and I'm like, it'll really benefit your running if you do this.
Yeah, massively so.
But they won't do it because they're like, everyone in the gym's going to look at me like I'm a twat. And
I
can understand
get,
it.
I do get that. You know, in this day and age, a lot of people unfortunately worry about what other people think about them, which kind of restricts or prohibits what they're gonna do. So I kind of get it, but that's why, like, I tend to program 2 gym days with the kind of normal stuff, where obviously normal things where you're not gonna bring attention to yourself, and then I prescribe a day at home where you're doing all the weird balancing stuff with, one foot pointing over there and one arm pointing over there, and and for those that are fortunate enough to be able to buy equipment at home, like a box and stuff like that, then they'll do their plyometrics at home. I can be sympathetic to that cause if it needs be, as long as the person's willing to do it at home and buy any equipment that they need, then I'll just prescribe it at home, to be honest. I do myself. I don't really care if I go into the gym if I'm doing plyometrics. It doesn't bother me. I think it looks quite cool, actually, box jumping. If you can box jump, like half or more of your height, I think that's quite impressive. I think anyone watching is watching in envy, not like, what's this dickhead doing?
I do think that I stick out massively at my gym, and I'm like, everyone looking at me is just like, what the fuck is he doing in his training? Because some of the things I do is like wild. But I just enjoy it. Like, I think I might have seen 1 or 2 other people do it in my gym, but like I'm pretty much the only person that does any form of Olympic lifting in my gym. And then I'm like dropping the weight from overhead, and everyone's just like, this guy's just fucking making so much noise. And I'm just like, I'm just training. They're like, oh, can't you put it down quietly? I'm like, if you snatch like 80 kilos, you try putting that down quietly. Like, you're not gonna.
No, definitely not. No, I'm seeing that a lot more now in the gyms that I go to. I'm seeing a lot more people doing the Olympic stuff, where they're throwing the weights around and bringing in like chalk bags and stuff into the gym, and getting proper chalked up and stuff. I'm seeing a lot more of it now, even in the commercial gyms. It is definitely becoming a bigger thing. Same as high rocks. That's crazy. Are you into that?
I've done a couple. I did the Cardiff one, and I did London Olympia as well. So I did a men's normal and a men's pro. Just wanted to see what it was all about.
Do you find having a background of both strength and conditioning and endurance sports is a benefit to it?
Oh yeah, 100%. My background is just so vast now. Like, I've done so many sports that I do really think that I'm at a point where my general fitness is just there, that if I decide I want to go and do Like, I wasn't competing in the high rocks. I wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna try and podium or like get a certain time. Really, I was just like, I just know that I can turn up and do it without any specific training. And that's what I enjoy, just being like, oh, I want to go do an ultra, okay, I can go do an ultra.
Yeah.
I want to go do a high rocks, fine, I'll go do a high rocks. If I want to go rock climbing, I can go rock climbing.
Yeah. It's a good thing to be like that, isn't it? It's the same like you're asking with me. It's the flit in between triathlon, ultra, and climbing mountains. It's a good place to be when you can just jump in and out of different sports. Well, within reason. Like, if you sent me to play a 90-minute game of football, I'd probably be absolutely fucked, and I'd probably like pull a hamstring and break a toe. I don't think I could do it. I really don't. But yeah, if you've got a certain amount of fitness and strength to you, you can turn your hand to most things, can you?
Yeah.
So have you? Would you have a go at like high rocks competitively? No.
Not for me.
No.
I didn't enjoy it.
No, I've never tried it, but I don't think I'd enjoy it. I just don't. I love lifting weights. I love lifting heavy weights. If it wasn't for, if I couldn't do my triathlon and ultra running for whatever reason, I would spend all my time lifting weights.
Yeah,
that's what I would do. Definitely, I just enjoy it. I love the kind of the progressive overload, and seeing like progressive overload. You'll know what it is, but it's one of the biggest things, like with a bench press, for argument's sake. I love the fact that you can get somebody that can barely lift 40 kilos on the bar, and then you give them a very like discrete progressive overload of, let's say, 1 kilo a week, and then they add that for the next 10 weeks, and they've gone from 40 kilos to 50 kilos in that amount of time without noticing. And then they keep on that progression, or they add slightly, and you can go from barely being able to lift 40 kilos to being able to double it with 80 kilos in a short space of time without really noticing. I love that aspect of it, that people can become a lot stronger than they are when they start with just slight manipulation. It's it's not like going from a 5k to an ultra. It's it's just that little progression, little changes, and you can become a much stronger person.
Yeah.
It's like, I definitely think I love reading a lot about strength and conditioning for aging people and the benefits to it, and the statistics behind like being able to bench press like your own body weight and stuff like that. It's something ridiculous, like 1% of the population can bench press their own body weight. It's mad, isn't it? And so if you're within that 1%, that's pretty special.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. And I think like they're starting to put a lot of strength and conditioning exercises, comparing it with what it will enable you to do for longer as you get older. You know, like things like farmers' carries, being able to carry the shopping, and silly things like getting up and down the stairs when you're older and you're much more frail, and all the things that you take for granted now. If you do regular strength and conditioning, then as you get become an old person, you're far better and far stronger. You're less likely to fall and break your hip, and a lot of elderly people, once they've broken the hip, that's it, it's game over. So so I definitely think strength and conditioning is like becoming more and more recognised as something like very, very important for aging. So I'm big behind it. I'm saying that I'm that old yet, but it's good to know if I can keep it up, then. And I think I don't think I could do my ultras. I don't think I could do my climbing and my triathlon if I didn't have strength and conditioning as part of my routine. Yeah, I think I'd be forever injured. Definitely.
Yeah. I like the comparison of like certain exercises that you wouldn't really piece together with its effect on aging. But things like pull-ups, like I've had clients ask me like, why are we doing pull-ups? Like I've got no interest in learning how to do an unassisted pull-up, but you've got me on the pull-up machine every week. And then I'm just like, well, if you think about it, when you're older, like say you take a fall, you try and get up from a fall. If you can't do a push-up and a pull-up, like the pulling up is like if you're next to like a chair or a bed or something, that strength to just pull some of your body weight and use your arms to help get you up, like that's going to be massive.
Yeah.
And you just don't think of those things because you're like, oh, I'm way off that.
Uh-huh.
But it's your ability to do these things before you're 40 that's got the biggest impact on like how you're going to fare in later life. That's not saying that after 40 it's like pointless and you just shouldn't do it.
No.
But the biggest impact happens before 40 on how you're then going to react in later life.
Like I'm probably the fittest and the strongest and have the best endurance engine that I've ever had, and I'm 47. It's okay, I've only been doing it for 10 years, but it's proof that, it doesn't matter as you get older. I used to, like, when I was 30, I thought 47 was like game over. That's it, life is done. You're just going to sit there in your armchair with your cardigan and your slippers, and that is that. But no, I think if you're, sport and endurance and strength and conditioning and good healthy diet you can prolong that kind of natural aging process for a long way, I think.
Yeah.
That's kind of like my goal. It's my secondary goal after all of my adventures, is to prolong aging for as much as I possibly can, stay fit and healthy.
Well, you want to be able to do these adventures for as long as you can, right? Like, that's the ultimate. Like, as much as people are like, oh, I want to like win this race or whatever, it's not just like, if I told you would win a Pona, but you wouldn't be able to like run again for the rest of your life, you'd probably be like, well, no, that's not a fair trade. No. So you want to be able to win a Pona while also being like, well, I'm gonna still be doing a Pona next year, and hopefully the year after and the year after that. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, how old were you when you got into like sports and stuff? Were you?
I was quite young, to be fair. Like, I come from quite a sporty family. I was never the sporty one. I was the black sheep in the family. My brother was like captain of the football team, like wanted to be a physio. My dad like played for Brentford Juniors, and it was all very sporty. And then I was just like, no, I'm a computer nerd. I love computers. I love video games. Like that was my thing. Reading, like, and then for some reason in my head I was like, I want to join the military when I was like 13. I was like, obviously I'm too young to join the military, but what can I do to prepare for when I'm like 16? So I started running. I started like just doing bodyweight workouts, things like that, cycling everywhere. And then I realised after like 6 months, like, I don't actually want to be in the military. Like, I like the discipline of it and the training. So then I just gave up with that. And then I was like 15 and I was still kind of into fitness, but then I wanted to get into sports. I tried loads of different sports, didn't really click with any. Started doing free running then, so I was like jumping off walls and did that competitively for ages. And then that's just sort of like led me into the world of fitness. And the older I'm getting, the more obsessed I'm getting.
So the reason I ask is because for me personally, I didn't get into it until later life. I did my martial arts, but like martial arts and endurance sports are like a far cry from each other. You have to be fit to do martial arts and to fight, but not on a level of like triathlon and ultra. So I often think what kind of athlete would I have been if I was doing what I'm doing now when I was in my early 20s? Would I have been way better? Would I have been worse? Would I have been the same? I'd love to know. But the other side of it is, if I was doing what I'm doing now when I was 20, would I have now been burnt out? Would I now be bored of it and given it up and decided to go to the pub instead? Would I be like so injured and kind of struggling from all of the hours that I spent? I'd love to know the difference and I often think, what is the better scenario? To have done it at a younger age but been far better, but then not been able to continue to do it into later life, or to have found your kind of niche and your enjoyment from it at a later life, and because you've not burnt yourself out and damaged your body so much, it is something that you can do into later life when you're probably in a position to be able to do it more because you've got more free time, you've got more finance behind you, and there's more opportunity and more doors open for you when you're an adult. I often think about that. So
I know like it's going to be nowhere near the same level as you because I've been active for like majority of my life now. But like I used to think like that a lot, where it's like naturally I'm a pretty good runner. Like that is my natural talent. Like the first run I ever did was 5 miles. The second run I ever did was a half marathon, and it's just like.
Yeah.
But I didn't know those were the distances. I was 13 and I was doing laps of the block.
Yeah.
And it was later in life that I was like, how far did I run? And I like calculated it on Strava and I was like, wow, like my second ever run was a half marathon. Like you don't just go and do that. So I was like, naturally running was my thing. Lifting weights, explosive sports, things like that were never my thing. It took me a lot of work to get to where I am, like 10 years. And people see me like squatting like 160 now. They're like, "Oh my god, you're so natural," and I'm like, "This is 10 years of work."
Yeah.
Like I remember squatting with the bar and finding it hard, but like I could go and run.
Yeah. It's like back to progressive overload.
Yeah.
I mean, that's again, what could I lift now if I started lifting weights at the age of 20?
Yeah.
Who knows?
But I always look back because I never stuck with running. Like it was this year that I started taking running seriously because I set my 6 and 6 and I was like, I should probably train for this. Like I can't just before that I just rocked up and done ultras and like suffered. But I was like, naturally I can get through it and I'll just get off with a few injuries and then I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Whereas like I'm like, I can't get through 6 without
that's
training.
quite a big ask, isn't it?
Yeah. So I was like, I'll take running seriously now. But I look back and I'm like, oh, could I have been like this incredible runner if I just stuck with running?
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I'm like, if I just stuck with running, I wouldn't have had the joy of doing all these other things that I've done.
Yeah.
And I would rather do that and have the appreciation that I have for running now, rather than being talented at it and being like, yeah, well, like, I'm good. Like,
Yeah.
it's not that fun, but like, I'm good at it. Yeah. Whereas now it's like, oh, I'm good at it and I'm enjoying it because I mix in this strength work. I can do Olympic lifting, I can go rock climbing, and I can do it in a way, like you were saying earlier, where it all supplements it, doesn't detract from it too much.
No. Yeah, there's a saying with triathlon, is that with triathlon, why be good at one sport when you can be mediocre at 3? It is very, very true. Like there's not, like, I don't know, I often think it changes around a little bit, but I don't have a background in any of the 3 disciplines, not really. I swam as a kid and I mountain biked as a teenager, but not to like a level that you need for triathlon. But I'd say out of the 3 sports, if I was to pick one, which one do I think I would be most successful at? It would probably be swimming. I definitely think that my swimming is, like, if I focused on that. But then, as I said earlier, what I learned with the pool is that the amount of time that you and consistency that you have to put into swimming for a marginal gain is insane. Like, whereas with cycling and running, if you are consistent and you have structure to it, you can see progression, quite obvious progression quite quickly, and you can it continues. It doesn't plateau. It does, but there are ways around plateauing in that sport. Whereas, swimming, you're talking like an extra 10 hours for 2 seconds over like 100 meters. That doesn't weigh up, does it? That's like, nah, that's not worth it at all. So yeah, I often think like if I picked one of those sports and just dedicated to it, but quite rightly, it would be boring as hell, wouldn't it? It would be if you just did one thing and that's it. Yeah. You'd take away all the enjoyment. At least with like there's different elements. So with swimming, it's not just about following the black tiles at the bottom of the pool, like going open water swimming, and there's other things that you can do. Like I've raced in do you know what swim run is? Have you heard of that? So that's great fun. There's no bike involved. One race I did a couple of years ago was right the way around the Pembrokeshire coast. So literally you trail run into the sea, swim like a kilometre or so, back out the sea, run again for another 10 kilometres along the coastal path, and you dive back in the sea and swim around. It's like proper adventure racing. Really good fun. That's like a good take on swimming. And then with cycling, you've got obviously all the different elements, like mountain biking. I've got a gravel bike, so I love going, especially through the winter when the weather's crap. I'll go off on my gravel bike and ride through like Avon Forest and stuff like that, and that's like a really nice kind of way of still getting your training in, but not being so focused on pace and power all the time. And then obviously with running, you've got the mountain and the trails and stuff. So even though it's a sport, there's 3 different disciplines. Each of those disciplines will branch off again to like 2 or 3 different things. So it's really good for that. There's a lot of variety.
Yeah.
You never get bored of it. Not really. I haven't yet anyway.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that I'm going to. So yeah, it's good.
It's always something that I try and like encourage people to do, is get as much variety in their training as they can, because it's so easy, like especially in my job, because I work in a gym, it's so easy for everyone to just think of their progress as the gym. Whereas like for me, where I did so yesterday I went out, did the Abergavenny 3 Peaks, and seeing people that had only they'd never been in the gym before, they come to me, they start training in the gym, and then to see them out on the mountains and being like, this is why we're in the gym.
Yeah.
And seeing them achieve the 3 Peaks is like, that's the best thing. But then I look at like so many other people in the gym and they're like, yeah, I'll stay in the gym.
Yeah.
It's like, does that not get boring? You're just, it's not even the excitement that you'd get from even dedicating to one of the 3 from triathlon of like, I get to go out and do something. It's like, no, I'm going to stay inside and lift
I'd
some
never
weights.
call it excitement in the gym. I do, as I said earlier, I do enjoy it. I enjoy the progress, and I enjoy the, seeing how you develop in it. But yeah, I'd never describe it as exciting.
Yeah. I don't see it as much, because my training has always been for something. Like, started off for the military, then it started off for free running. So then I was like, I want to be a better free runner. I want to be able to absorb more impact. So I'll do weight training, I'll do squats, things like that. And then it was like, oh, right, like now I'm into rock climbing. So now I'm focusing my weights around a thing. The only time where it hasn't been for something external was when I was competing in Olympic lifting. And that was after I broke my ankle. So it was like, well, I've given up on running now. Like, I didn't run for like 3 years, really. And it's like, well, I can't run, so I'm just going to lift weights, because it's the only thing that I can imagine doing that's going to keep me active. And then even then, it's like, well, I'm doing it so I can compete, not just to be in the gym.
Yeah, that's another good reason, though, isn't it, to have multiple things that you like. The good thing about cross training and triathlon is, like, I see so many people that run, like, so my friend Lee Westwood, he's got ITB syndrome at the moment, which is, I don't know if you've ever had it, it's one of the
horrendous
worst. I had it, my first ever ultra, I DNF'd because of it, coming down Oxwich steps. You ever ran down there? They're big step offs with ITB syndrome. Every time you extend your leg, it pulls in your knee, and the pain was just unbearable. I was quite new to ultras then. I didn't know how to deal with pain, so I DNF'd because of it. So yeah, I got sympathy for anyone with it. But Lee only really runs. There's not much else that he does. He does do a little bit of mountain biking and stuff. But I'm seeing him struggling with an injury and not really being able to do much else other than walk and just general stuff. Whereas anyone in triathlon, like, I've got a girl at the moment that I'm coaching, she's got ITB syndrome as well, but yet she can still go out and cycle for hours and hours and hours, still swim, still go to the gym, so she's still maintaining her fitness and also her mental health by being able to go and still train all these things. Whereas if you just pick one sport and that's it, when you're injured in it, that's it all falls apart, doesn't it? Everything, you start to lose your fitness, you start to lose your mind. And so cross training has definitely got its benefits for that reason as well.
100%.
For sure.
Right, I feel like we could talk fitness and coaching
I think so,
all day.
A couple of beers would be all right, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but we'll wrap it up here. Thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome.
Where can people go to follow you and your coaching and everything that you're doing next year?
Instagram mainly. Simon Malley on Instagram. I've got to give a shout out as well. So the climb to Mont Blanc, I'm doing it for a cause. It's a charity called the For Nicky Foundation, and it's a charity that's been set up by a lovely couple that I met through triathlon. Unfortunately, their son took his own life, and they've set up a charity to try and bring awareness for mental health, and in particular suicide in young males. So all of this alpinism that I'm doing, all the challenges that I'm setting myself and the risks that I'm taking is to bring awareness for that. So all of the summits that I did, the 4,000 summits that I've just done, I took the flag with their logo on it for the charity, and on the top of each of the summits that we climbed, we flew the flag for them, which I was really proud to be able to do that. And the goal is to take that flag and fly it on the top of Mont Blanc, which is Europe's tallest mountain. So I want to do that for them, so it feels like, their son is kind of, he's being taken to these places in the form of his flag and his logo, and if I can bring awareness and the charity, anybody that is struggling, that's what the charity is for. They've got loads and loads of links and people that they can go to speak to and help with any of those issues. So you can find all that information as well on my Instagram page. There's links to the website, so if anybody or anyone knows of anybody that is struggling, then there's lots of help out there. So yeah, have a look at that link and go and have a read.
Yeah, I'll pop that link in the description as well, so
great,
it's easy to find.
Mm-hmm.
No, amazing. Thanks for sharing.
That's all right.
Thanks again for listening to another episode of the Adventure Athletes podcast. It really does make a difference. The more listens we get, the more shares we get, the more you guys interact with the social clips, everything. It makes a huge difference to the podcast, and the more that we can build the podcast, the better guests I can get on for you guys. So if you can, please share the podcast around on your socials, in your stories, to your friends, anyone that you think might be interested in listening. All I'm trying to do is provide free content for you guys, something interesting, something that will change your mindset and potentially make a difference in your life. That's what this podcast has always been about. So yeah, if you can share it around, help me grow this podcast as much as I can. I get nothing from this podcast other than the joy of sharing it with you guys. So it really does mean a lot to me. Yeah, until next week, guys.